Welcome to the 2020 Illinois Wing Aerospace Conference. I am First Lieutenant Andrew Scoulas, and today we're going to learn about air power. Our objectives for this presentation are to learn about what is air power, General Billy Mitchell's role in air power, CAP air power in World War II, and CAP air power in the 21st century. So, first we'll take a look at what is air power. According to Chapter 2, Air Power of the U.S. Air Force Basic Doctrine, air power is defined as the ability to project military power or influence through the control and exploitation of air, space, and cyberspace to achieve strategic, operational, or tactical objectives. Through air power, the Air Force provides the versatile, wide-ranging means toward achieving national objectives with the ability to deter and respond immediately to crises anywhere in the world. Now, from the CAP perspective, air power is a means to achieving strategic, operational, or tactical objectives. CAP accomplishes these objectives through its three congressionally chartered missions: aerospace education, cadet programs, and emergency services. With respect to emergency services, through air power, CAP provides the versatile, wide-ranging means towards achieving national objectives with the ability to respond immediately to crises anywhere in the country. With respect to cadet programs, cadets experience the importance of air power firsthand through orientation rides, also known as O-rides, and attending CAP flight academies. And for aerospace education, cadets and senior members learn about air power and complete aerospace education tests to earn awards and promotions. Best examples being the Cadet Spots Award and the Yeager Award for senior members. Now we'll take a look at General Billy Mitchell's role
Andrew,
in
can
air
you still
power.
hear me?
So first we should take a step back and look at who was General Billy Mitchell. He was a United States Army general, combat pilot, and veteran of World War I.
And the good
who
thing
was
is I'm
regarded
listening,
as the
and
father of the
I haven't heard
independent
myself
Air
come
Force.
through yet. So
He served in
I
France
believe
during World War I,
you and I are
earning
still
Senior
just talking
Aviator
on our own.
qualification, the Distinguished Service Cross, the Distinguished Service Medal, and several decorations from the United Kingdom, France, and Italy. By the end of the war, he commanded all of the American air combat units in France. With respect to General Billy Mitchell's role in air power, after the war, Mitchell was appointed Deputy Director of the United States Army Air Service, or USAAS. Mitchell advocated for an increased investment in air power, believing that this would prove vital in future wars. He argued for the ability of bombers to sink battleships and organized a series of bombing runs against stationary ships designed to test the idea. The Navy said this would be impossible, while the Army remained skeptical about air power. However, in 1921, Mitchell led an aerial bombing demonstration resulting in the sinking of the surplus German battleship Ostfriesland. Continuing his public campaign for air power, Mitchell was eventually court-martialed for insubordination after accusing Army and Navy leaders of an almost treasonable administration of the national defense for investing in battleships instead of aircraft carriers. Mitchell knew that military air power, operating independently of ground and sea forces, needed to be the first line of defense. And this is a photo of the Ostfriesland after it was sunk in 1921. Although he passed away in 1936, Mitchell's legacy was exonerated when air power played an integral role in the U.S.'s victory over Germany and the Empire of Japan in World War II. In 1942, recognizing Mitchell's contributions to air power, President Franklin Roosevelt posthumously promoted him to the rank of Major General on the U.S. Army Air Corps' retired list. Roosevelt also petitioned the U.S. Congress to posthumously award Mitchell the Congressional Gold Medal, later awarded in 1946, in recognition of his outstanding pioneer service and foresight in the field of American military aviation. And with respect to his legacy, CAP's General Billy Mitchell Award, established in 1964, is named in his honor. The Mitchell Award is awarded to cadets for sustained excellence in all four areas of cadet life: leadership, aerospace, fitness, and character. The Mitchell Award marks completion of Phase 2 of the CAP cadet program, and cadets who earn the Mitchell Award are promoted to cadet second lieutenant. Now we'll take a look at CAP air power in World War II. And that is multifaceted. There was Coastal Patrol, Search and Rescue, or SAR, cargo and courier flying, Southern Liaison Patrol, Forest Patrol, and other missions, training of cadets, and we'll also take a look at the overall accomplishments of CAP during World War II, as well as the sacrifices. Now, with respect to coastal patrol, on the 7th of December 1941, the Imperial Japanese Navy attacked Pearl Harbor. Soon after Congress declared war on Germany, Italy, and Japan, German submarines were operating in the American coastal waters along the eastern and southeastern shorelines. By the end of September 1942, 204 vessels had been lost. This not only seriously affected the supply of war materials to Allied forces fighting in Europe and Africa, but also cut into the nation's petroleum supplies. The Navy was spread so thinly along the 1,200-mile sea frontier of the eastern and southeastern coasts that it could not effectively combat the raiding enemy submarines. And the Army Air Forces had not had time to build up the number of aircraft needed to cope with their regular missions, as well as the submarine menace. CAP leaders urged the War Department to give the newly organized force a chance to help combat the submarine menace. On the 5th of March 1942, CAP was authorized to conduct a 90-day experimental operation on coastal patrol at 2 locations on the eastern seaboard. In the beginning, reconnaissance air crews, consisting of a pilot and observer, would spot enemy submarines and notify the Army and Navy bomber forces. Eventually, CAP planes were permitted to carry bombs. The coastal patrols were so effective that the program lasted almost 18 months, from the 5th of March 1942 to the 31st of August 1943. Their accomplishments included reporting 173 submarines sighted. They sunk 2 submarines. They had flown 86,685 missions over coastal waters for a total of 244,600 hours, which translates into approximately 24 million miles. And they summoned help for 91 ships in distress and for 363 survivors of submarine attacks. Now we'll take a look at search and rescue. From the 1st of January 1942 to the 1st of January 1946, CAP aircrews flew 24,000 hours of assigned search and rescue, or SAR, missions. During this period, CAP aircrews voluntarily flew thousands of additional search and rescue hours at their own expense. To highlight how effective they were, during 1 week in February 1945, CAP search and rescue crews found 7 missing Army and Navy planes. In fact, CAP had a greater percentage of finds than the Army Air Forces, or AAF. Now you may be wondering, how is that possible? Well, CAP search and rescue pilots had 3 advantages over Army Air Forces search and rescue pilots. First, CAP aircraft could fly much lower and slower than Army Air Forces airplanes because of their design. Second, CAP pilots were more familiar with the terrain in their search sectors and could spot wreckage that would be concealed from pilots unfamiliar with the same territory. Third, CAP ground teams assisted CAP search and rescue pilots with finding missing aircraft and survivors. CAP ground teams were ready to go directly to the sites where wreckage was thought to be. They used a variety of means depending on the geography, including on foot, on skis, on horseback, and in Florida, using what are called glade buggies. This illustration here of a ground search team on foot spotting the wreckage of a plane is from CAPP 50-5, Introduction to Civil Air Patrol. Now we'll look at cargo and courier flying. As wartime industrial production grew, the commercial and military transportation facilities could not transport all of the war materials stacking up in the warehouses and supply depot yards. From 1942 to early 1944, CAP pilots moved over 3.5 million pounds of mail-in cargo for the Air Forces and transported hundreds of military passengers throughout the United States. CAP set up regularly scheduled cargo flights and courier flights all over the nation. This reduced air transportation costs, and many military aircraft were released for more direct use in the war effort. And now we'll take a look at Southern Liaison Patrol. From July 1942 to April of 1944, CAP was active in helping patrol the border between Brownsville, Texas, and Douglas, Arizona. The CAP Southern Liaison Patrol flew approximately 30,000 hours, patrolling from dawn to dusk 1,000 miles of rough, rocky, and barren terrain. The CAP planes were looking for out-of-the-ordinary activities, such as spies or saboteurs entering or leaving the country. In fact, their work led to the arrest of enemy agents and the discovery of an enemy radio station. And now we'll look at forest patrol and other missions. CAP pilots and air crews flew other missions during World War II that assisted the war effort, either directly or indirectly. Flying blood bank mercy missions for the American Red Cross and other civilian agencies. Forest patrols flew over forests to detect fires and report suspected arsonists. Flying mock raids to test blackout practices and air raid warning systems. supporting bond drives, assisting in salvage collection drives, training pilots, towing targets for air-to-air gunnery practice by fighter aircraft and anti-aircraft batteries, which was very dangerous work, by the way. On the ground, CAP personnel guarded airfields and other installations and patrolled power lines and waterways to guard against saboteurs. And when natural disasters occurred, CAP personnel assisted the Red Cross and others to evacuate people and administer aid to those affected, which is very similar to work that we do to this very day. And also, CAP was involved in training cadets. Although CAP was organized along military lines and performed defense functions, none of its members were exempt from military service. In early 1942, CAP set up a program to recruit and train CAP cadets to assist with tasks at the operational level and, at the same time, to begin training toward becoming licensed pilots for service in CAP or to enter military service for military pilot training. Within 6 months of the program's creation, CAP had over 20,000 cadets attending weekly meetings. Recruitment and training offered the CAP cadet an advantage over other youths. They would already have a knowledge of military life and the importance of aviation to the nation. On the 29th of April, 1943, the command jurisdiction of CAP was transferred from the Office of Civilian Defense to the War Department, and CAP became an auxiliary of the Army Air Forces. And of course, this transfer had a positive impact on CAP recruiting Army aviation cadets. Now, there were many accomplishments during this time. CAP trained thousands of young men to fly before they joined the Army Air Forces. CAP pilots flew 500,000 hours of missions in support of the war effort, and it is confirmed that they sunk at least 2 submarines. CAP members saved countless numbers of aircraft crash survivors and survivors of disasters at sea by guiding rescue forces to them. However, these accomplishments were not without sacrifices. 65 CAP members lost their lives in service to their country during World War II. As we can see, it was spread out across all of CAP's missions, from coastal patrol to courier service, operation of aircraft on CAP cadet programs, and other missions as well. And now we'll discuss CAP air power in the 21st century. We'll take a look at CAP's role immediately after September 11th, 2001, or 9/11, how 9/11 changed Civil Air Patrol, CAP's role in Homeland Security after 9/11, Civil Air Patrol's fleet, and contemporary examples of CAP's air power. On September 11th, 2001, terrorists affiliated with Al-Qaeda hijacked 4 commercial airplanes. 3 of the hijacked airplanes were crashed into 2 targets. 2 of the airplanes were crashed into the World Trade Center in New York City. 1 of the planes was crashed into the Pentagon in Arlington County, Virginia. The 4th plane, however, did not reach its destination, thanks to the bravery of the passengers who fought with and overcame terrorists who had commandeered the airplane. Now, with respect to CAP's role immediately after 9/11, there was a need to assess the damage to the World Trade Center, also known as Ground Zero. Then New York Governor James Pataki and FEMA requested Civil Air Patrol for this mission, and their request was approved by the Pentagon. The day after the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001, a CAP Cessna 172, the only non-military aircraft allowed in the nation's airspace, provided emergency management officials the first high-resolution images of the World Trade Center site. There were a total of about 40 CAP flights. And nationwide, CAP volunteers transported blood and medical supplies, provided communication and transportation support, and assisted state and federal officials. And this is a photo of the first CAP aircrew that flew over Ground Zero. From left to right, there is Lieutenant Colonel Andrew Feldman, mission specialist, Lieutenant Colonel Jacques Heinrich, mission pilot, and Lieutenant Colonel Warren Ratis, the airborne photographer. And this is one of the photos of Ground Zero that was taken immediately after 9/11 by one of the CAP air crews. Now you'll notice this plume of smoke there, how it goes high up into the sky. That plume of smoke could be seen from space in this photo that was taken by NASA. So you may be wondering, why was CAP called upon during a time of national emergency? Well, one of the factors was speed, because most military aircraft fly too fast to take quality photographs from the air. Training was another factor. At that time, about 100 CAP members had aerial photography training. And then there was cost, because the average price for flying a CAP plane in 2011 at least, was $150 per hour versus thousands of dollars for flying military and commercial aircraft. And now we'll look at how 9/11 changed Civil Air Patrol in the words of others. Malcolm Kaiser, then CAP's Chief of Operations Support, said, "Our entire mission profile has changed, and the fulcrum was 9/11. And in the words of Colonel Rick Greenhut, CAP's first National Director of Homeland Security, "I believe our performance in the aftermath of 9/11 cemented CAP's credibility with the government and the military, changing the very tenor of our organization, so that CAP is now recognized as a very capable, cost-effective, and reliable asset for the protection of America." And now we'll look at CAP's role in Homeland Security after 9/11. Thanks to CAP's exemplary performance immediately after 9/11, CAP is more involved in Homeland Security missions. A great example is security, flying over 100 sites 3 times a day during the 2002 Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City, Utah. This was just months after 9/11. With respect to disaster relief, there was CAP's role in disaster relief after Hurricane Katrina in 2005, the Gulf of Mexico oil spill in 2010, and the aftermath of Hurricanes Harvey and Irma in 2017. And of course, CAP has taken on a greater role in cooperation with other agencies because CAP's standardized training and operations allows integration into larger missions with the U.S. Air Force and other agencies, including but not limited to FEMA. Now we'll take a look at Civil Air Patrol's fleet. CAP's fleet includes fixed-wing aircraft, training gliders, and balloons. The majority of CAP's 560 single-engine airplane fleet are Cessna 172 Skyhawks and 182 Skylanes. CAP's fleet also includes the Cessna 206 Stationair and 18 Australian-made 8-seat Gibbs Aero GA8 Airvans. 16 of CAP's Airvans carry the Airborne Real-Time Queuing Hyperspectral Enhanced Reconnaissance, or ARCHER system, which is used to search for aircraft wreckage based on its spectral signature. The ARCHER imaging system, mounted aboard the GA8 Airvan, uses visible and near-infrared light to examine the surface of the Earth and find suspected crash sites, evaluate areas affected by disasters, or examine foliage from an airborne perspective in order to flag possible marijuana plantations. Some aircraft in the CAP fleet are equipped with a Satellite Digital Imaging System, or SDIS. SDIS allows CAP to send back real-time images of a disaster or crash site to anyone with an email address, allowing the mission coordinators to make more informed decisions. In fact, ARCHER may be used in coordination with the SDIS system, and both the SDIS and ARCHER systems were used with great success in the response to Hurricane Katrina. More than 250 CAP aircraft are equipped with technically advanced glass cockpits, or electronic flight instrument displays, which enhance aircrew efficiency and safety. CAP also operates 47 gliders and 2 hot air balloons, used mainly for orientation flights and training. CAP's glider fleet includes the Schleicher ASK-21 and the Czech-made Lt L23 Superblanik, and the German-made Schweitzer SGS-2-33. And I found some photos of these aircraft in CAP markings. This is the Cessna 172 Skyhawk. This is the Cessna 182 Skylane. This is the Cessna 206 Stationair. And this is the Gibbs Aero GA8 Airvan. And shown here, coming in for a landing, is the Lt L23 Superblanik glider. And this is one of CAP's hot air balloons. As mentioned earlier, in addition to powered aircraft and gliders, CAP owns 2 hot air balloon envelopes, one in Indiana and another in New Mexico. CAP has 20 rated balloon pilots nationwide, and ballooning is also called LTA, or lighter than air. In fact, if you're able to join us Sunday afternoon, Lieutenant Colonel Seth Hudson of the Southwest region will be presenting at that time on CAP's lighter than air program. Now we'll take a look at some contemporary examples of CAP's air power. First, we'll look at orientation rides. During 2017, CAP pilots provided 30,589 orientation rides, also called O-rides. The purpose of O-Rides is to introduce CAP cadets, Air Force Junior ROTC, and ROTC cadets to flight. Instructor pilots also flew another 5,264 hours in powered aircraft, often at CAP National Flight Academies held across the country, teaching CAP cadets how to fly. Glider instructors flew another 3,160 sorties in 2017, teaching CAP cadets how to soar. And then there's CAP's role in search and rescue. In its role as the U.S. Air Force Auxiliary, CAP conducts about 90% of all search operations within the continental United States, as assigned by the Air Force Rescue Coordination Center, or AFRCC. CAP air crews and ground teams work together to locate missing aircraft or missing persons. And aerial photography is one of CAP's core missions, with most of its aircraft equipped with digital cameras capable of storing the geographic coordinates of the images. And then there are the shadow escort flights. Beginning in 2016, CAP conducts shadow escort flights for the Air National Guard's 174th Attack Wing in central New York. As part of the Air Force's Reaper training program for pilots and sensor operators, CAP air crews accompany the MQ-9 Reapers to and from military restricted airspace for training exercises to comply with the FAA's rule to see and avoid other aircraft. And the support provided by CAP has saved taxpayers more than $1 million and increased MQ-9 training by 25%. And this is a photo of a CAP aircraft with one of the MQ-9 Reapers. In 2017, CAP was involved in 789 search and rescue missions, saved 110 lives, and flew 100,352 hours conducting search and rescue, disaster relief, air defense, counter-drug, and other missions. And if we were to put a value on CAP members' volunteer service that year, that is $177 million economic impact in volunteer services nationwide. And in fiscal year 2020, CAP volunteers helped save 130 lives. That's the fifth highest number of saves in CAP's 79-year history. By the way, CAP was founded on the 1st of December, 1941. In the words of Lieutenant General Kirk Pierce, commander of the 1st Air Force, these highly dedicated civil volunteers are on call 24/7. Civil Air Patrol is a national asset we rely on almost every day of the year. So, in conclusion, we learned about what is air power. We learned about General Billy Mitchell's role in air power. We also looked at CAP air power in World War II and CAP air power in the 21st century. The references that I used for this presentation are primarily CAP publications or sourced from CAP reference material. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to reach out to me via email at any time. Thank you very much for joining us. This is the first day of the Illinois Wing Aerospace Conference. We hope that you are able to attend many of the sessions on Saturday and Sunday. Thank you again, and Semper Vigilance.
Yes, thank you very much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and please check out all the other great presentations that we have scheduled for this weekend. And if there are any questions, be glad to answer them, or you're welcome to reach out to me today or via email. I have a question here, which is a good one. If Major Larson doesn't mind, he's my tech support here. He's a former group commander. This is a great question. I don't have like the best answer for it. Can you get involved in search and rescue in other states? And how would you sign up for that area? I currently get the Illinois search and rescue texts.
Okay, so the getting involved with other states is a little bit more difficult in the fact that each state is assigned kind of like their own area of responsibility. So, you know, we might get called in for help, but generally, if there was something, say in Indiana is going to get the call first. They're going to be the ones who will try to, prosecute any search and rescue within their state limits. If they need help they will reach out. But for the most part, no, we are individual, state specific.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, and for those who joined us late or may have encountered technical issues, all of my presentations were recorded. They can be accessed through the Illinois Wing website after the conference, and you can still receive credit towards your level 3, or if you're working in your aerospace education officer, senior or master ratings as well. But thank you for all the wonderful feedback. I'm honored that you joined us and flattered by your kind praise. Thank you all. Oh, Mr. Hill, thank you. You did not include your grade or rank, but yeah, I saw your comment at the very beginning and your comment at the end. Thank you so much. I'm delighted that you all found this interesting. This is my first presentation for a CAP conference, and I greatly enjoyed putting this together. I'm passionate about CAP, aerospace education, pretty much just about everything about CAP, but thank you so much. And yeah, thanks for joining us, and please check out the other sessions and enjoy the conference. Oh, this is interesting. Colonel Brian Cooper, the Northeast Region Director of Aerospace Education, mentioned, are you aware that the CAP historian now believes we sank 0 subs? The credit was awarded by an overly enthusiastic Air Force officer supervising the mission. He does give us credit for sinking a number of whales. On that note, there is a lieutenant colonel who has moved to Florida who used to be part of my squadron, the Magnus Composite Squadron. He said to me rather tongue-in-cheek, well, we have 2 confirmed submarines and then 1 possible whale. This is the first I've heard that we have possibly 0 subs, which is, well, unfortunate, but at least we can still look to what those crews did for chasing away subs and also locating missing crews from ships that have been sunk by the Germans. But actually, there is a quote. I don't remember the source, but there was a German submarine commander after the war who was interviewed, and he actually was cursing those yellow planes, referring to the CAP planes. So they did make a difference. Even if we didn't sink any after all, they did make a difference in chasing away subs and saving lives. So thank you, sir. That's very interesting. And let's see. And Scott Lowe of Vermont Wing. Oh, absolutely. Yes, you can have a copy of this presentation. Let's see. I'm actually going to include my email address so you can copy and paste it. Yeah, as long as you if you want to use the whole thing, that's fine. You want to pick it apart. If you can, use parts of it, that's fine. Just all I ask is you give me credit and mention that I presented this during the Illinois Wing Conference. Absolutely. I'm honored. And okay. Okay. Okay, there's some comments here about technical suggestions. I will pass those along to the director of the conference and the IT director for the conference. So thank you. Yeah. Now the source, Lieutenant Bargage asked what sources were used for the research. They were on one of the next to last slides, or one of the second to last slides. Most of them are CAP resources. Some of them are articles that are based on their CAP source, so to speak, because one of the articles I chose was from an FAA publication, and the author of that article at that time, I think it's from 2017, he was the vice commander for the National Capital wing of CAP. I do refer occasionally to Wikipedia. I like to view Wikipedia as a starting point, not as an end point, because for better or for worse, anybody can edit Wikipedia. So the information is there. You can go to National's website. You can go to the National Historical. I'm actually going to put the link in here. The National Historical Programs website, and other CAP manuals have. There's these nuggets of information, for lack of a better choice of words. So sometimes you just you're doing research on one topic, and then you wind up discovering something that you might find useful for another presentation altogether. So, okay, another question from Mr. Hill. Does this communication from various wings in times of need apply to those of us in the national? Interesting question. I don't know if Major Larson's still with us or not. This one, yeah, Mr. Hill, you're asking excellent questions, and I'm still in the learning phase of emergency services. Does this communication from various wings in times of need applies to those of us in the National CAP SUAS drone team? That's a very good question, for which I do not have an answer. I don't know what wing you're in. I don't recognize your name. My apologies. That's a question I would actually address to the director of the program at the national level. I hope to be involved in that someday, but that's a long way off for me. So, yeah. Oh, thank you very much, Lieutenant Bargage, for your kind words. Aha, Colonel Cooper. Thank you again. The German was Admiral Dönitz. Oh, commander of the German subforces. Yep. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, because I saw that mentioned somewhere, but they didn't. The source that I was looking at, they actually did not identify who it was. Oh, so that's the commander of the German Navy, Admiral Dönitz. Thank you, sir. Oh, Cadet Airman First Class Ezra Morris. Am I a pilot? No, I am not. However, I am aircrew qualified. I am a mission scanner and a mission observer, and I'm very proud to say that I have credit for a find as a mission observer. But at this moment in time, not a pilot. And oh, Captain Paul, thank you. Thank you for your kind words. I'm very glad you could join us. Colonel Cooper, if you don't mind my asking, if you can reach out to me, I'm going to post my email. Love to chat with you online or offline in the future. And of course, everyone in the audience, you're welcome to reach out to me at any time this weekend, or even say you decide to work on your technician rating and historian. Feel free to reach out to me anytime this week or next year for that matter. The door is always open. I enjoy talking about CAP with people. So Cadet Senior Airman Troyer, did CAP during 9/11 help others on the field like firefighters or police? Not that I am aware of. I'm assuming you're referring to the area around Ground Zero itself. They were doing airborne photography, and that's it. They were, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, they were flying supplies during that time, but I am not aware of us actually being on the ground during that time. Excellent question. So I'll just leave it at this. Not that I'm aware of, because when we look at CAP's role in emergency services, it's search and rescue, airborne photography, and of course ground team search and rescue, but not for situations where we would be directly in danger, because as we were reminded time and again by our national commander, CAP's most valuable asset are the people who belong to CAP, senior members and cadets. So kind of a long-winded question. Anyway, Cadet Mars, what was the find? The find was, I already forgot the airport. It's been a year and a half, shame on me. It was a beacon that went off, and so we departed from Lansing Airport to go to the airport where the beacon had been tripped or triggered, for lack of a better choice of words. And my pilot, for lack of a better choice of words, was our squadron commander, First Lieutenant Mike Carpenter. He's a commercial pilot. He has great instincts, and he figured out immediately where the airport would, where it would be. So we went to that airport and we landed, and it happened to have been, he was right. And so the beacon got deactivated right before we landed, and we met with a gentleman who was the ground team of one, literally, and he told us that he'd found the beacon just like minutes before and deactivated it. But the incident commander gave us all credit for the find, and it was just interesting. Fortunately, we had a pilot fortunately we have a squadron commander who happens to be a commercial pilot, who is an excellent pilot in CAP. And like I said, he just had good instincts, and he just knew immediately. He figured out this is where it's coming from. It has to be at this airport, and it was just, and this is actually quite common, not to make light of search and rescue, because there are situations where there are missing people or planes that have gone missing, and every minute counts. But this is a situation where beacons just go off for whatever reason, and we find them, or we locate the plane, then we have to contact the person who owns the plane, and they deactivate it. So anyway, fortunately, no one was at risk in that situation. So, but it was, I forgot which airport it was. It was not Lansing, which we flew out of. It was not Bolt Field. It was about an hour's flight south of Lansing, but for some reason I have forgotten that, a very important detail. So, thank you, sir, Miss Colonel Cooper, for your contact information. I'm going to copy and paste that so I don't lose it after I close the session. Yeah, and for everyone who's joining us, especially the cadets, thank you for joining us. And also, since we are on the subject of history, I'm going to make mention to a couple of other presentations that are going to be taking place during the conference that are historically relevance, so to speak. If you'll pardon the obvious plug, I will be giving the Women in Aviation primer at 1 o'clock Central Time. For those of you who are not within the Central Time Zone, that's going to be in Terminal C. And very importantly, at 4 p.m. Central Time in Terminal A, we will have a Women in Aviation presentation with Gigi Coleman, which is being hosted by my colleague, Major Carol Curtis, from the Coffee Composite Squadron. For those who are not familiar with the squadrons of Northern Illinois, the Coffee Composite Squadron is named after Cornelius Coffee, who was not only a pilot in Civil Air Patrol, his wife was also a pilot and officer in Civil Air Patrol. And there'll be, again, pardon the obvious plug, that will be mentioned during my Women in Aviation primer at 1 o'clock. But please do check out, if you have time, the interview with Gigi Coleman at 4 o'clock. She is the great niece of Bessie Coleman, who is the first African-American woman pilot in the United States. And this is a connection, a living connection to history, as I like to call it. So anyway, be sure to check out as many sessions as you can. If you can't check them all out today or tomorrow, they are recorded and you can come back and check them out later. So once again, thank you so much for joining us. You've honored me with your presence. Captain Parker, are we going to use rescue dogs in the future in our missions? Actually, in a way we do. For the ground team member 2 or 1 qualification of emergency services, you have to work with rescue dogs. Now, whether they are, I hate to use the word property, whether they are under the control of CAP is another matter, because I believe in that situation, they were part of a canine team for the local police. So we do, but they're not CAP dogs, if that makes any sense. So anyway, thanks again for joining me. If there's any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat. And thank you, Major Curtis, for joining us, and for recommending this presentation to so many of your colleagues at the Coffee Composite Squadron. I'm looking forward to joining you and meeting Gigi Coleman at 4 o'clock. So if there aren't any other questions, I guess we'll wrap this up and hope to meet all of you in person once things go back to normal, so to speak, whether it's at an Illinois Wing Conference or a regional event or a national event. And again, always feel free to reach out.